continuing. So today is just full speed ahead, not in the sense of just running, but as in progress. We're not going to go back to the stuff that we've been covering because we repeated the same presentation twice. So today we're just progressing. Just a quick recap. Yesterday we identified the line, when the line of the tribe of Judah begins to open the 7 seals, right? And we identified that it begins at work at the time of the end, right? Beginning in 1798, he was opening the 7 seals for the Millerites. And we understood that the first seal for the Millerites is opened at the time of the end, and it was the message of primarily the 2300 days, because the unsealing of the book was the message in relation to time, right? So here the 2300 days is open, and Miller begins to grapple with it in the future, right? But the message is opened up. But then so that Miller's message gets perfected by the work of Samuel Snow. But it's the same message, right? The message that's opened up at the beginning is a message that's later perfected by Samuel Snow. And we're identifying that Christ's removal of the 7 seals is illustrating a progressive revelation of truth. So Jesus illustrates the end of the beginning. Therefore, the characteristics of the first seal are repeated in the 7th seal, because this is the beginning and this is the end. So the first seal is the 2300, therefore the 7th seal is the 2300, but it's now fully opened up based on the character of Christ. And we identified that work begins at the time of the end. And we saw that Samuel Snow is the person whom the Lord is using to perfect that message, but he does it before the shut door, right? He does it before the shut door, the end of the 2300 days, showing you that the 7th seal, or the complete message for the time, is opened up before the door shuts for the people, right? And then we came to our line. We established both these waymarks as the time of the end, based on Daniel 11:40. This is the time of the end for us. This is the time of the end for the Millerites. Therefore, when you get to the time of the end, based on the character of the line of the tribe of Judah, and the quotations that we read, that Daniel shall stand in his lot at the end of the days. And we saw that Daniel stands in his lot at the time of the end, from those quotations. And when Daniel stands in his lot, from what we read, the book of Daniel is unsealed. And when the book of Daniel is unsealed, it's identifying, we read a quotation where Sister White says that in the Revelation, the line of the tribe of Judah is open to the students who prophesy the book of Daniel. Therefore, when the book of Daniel is being opened up, it's being likened to the work that the line of the tribe of Judah is doing. And Christ does his work as the line of the tribe of Judah in Revelation chapter 5, when he's removing the 7 seals, one at a time. So, Millerite history from 1798 to October 22. There were 7 events that took place, the 7 thunders, and there were events connected with the close of probation. But the message that's opened up to them is the message connected with the close of probation. Because the 2300 days is pointing, one, to the opening of the judgment, right? This is when the investigative judgment opens. But it's also pointing to the shut door for the Millerites. So this is the close of their probation. When you bring it to our time, we need to see a similar pattern. When the Lord opens up events, great and solemn events that are connected with the close of probation. And we're going to show that our close of probation, the general close of probation, is in Daniel 12:1 when Michael stands up. Right? So that's the message that's opened up. Right? When you're looking at the message that we want to study from Daniel 11:40.
So why did you write the MD at the beginning?
So the close of judgment.
Oh.
Close of judgment. Right. So here Millerite history is the beginning, right? And they're announcing the opening of the judgment. But aren't we the end of Adventism? Isn't Millerite history the beginning of Adventism?
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning of Adventism, they're announcing the opening of the judgment. Therefore, what should be announced at the end of Adventism? The close of judgment. And judgment closes when Michael stands in Daniel 12:1. Therefore, the events that are going to be opened up for us from 1989 are events connected with the close of probation, leading you to Daniel 12:1. Right? And you know that based on the context, when you read Daniel 11:40, we know that verse 40, part B, begins to take place in 1989. But when you get to Daniel 12:1, the message of Daniel has been fully opened up, right? So basically Daniel 11:40 to 45 is the events that are connected with the close of probation. Because verse 45 takes you all the way to Daniel 12:1. And Daniel 12:1 is the end, right? That's where you get to the end. there's nothing really, there's events that happen in the plague and stuff, but based on the message from Daniel, this is where Daniel's message reaches its climax. So, we want to put some principles in place before we go to Daniel 11:40 to 45. One of those principles is, we know that the rule, the triple application, we know it. 1 plus 2 equals 3, right? It's a principle that pervades scripture. Pagan Rome, how many obstacles does pagan Rome have to conquer before it rules the world supreme? 3, right? The east, the pleasant land or the glorious land, and Egypt, right? Based on Daniel chapter 8. How many obstacles does papal Rome have to conquer? 3. The Herulites, the Vandals, and the Ostrogoths, right? But there's something, so therefore, when modern Rome is rising, because Daniel 11:40 to 45 is identifying the papacy rising towards supremacy. Therefore, you are going to see the papacy having to conquer 3 areas, right? Therefore, based upon Rome 1 plus Rome 2 equals Rome 3. Therefore, the papacy has to conquer how many obstacles? Modern Rome. 3, and those obstacles, they have to be geographical obstacles, right? Because pagan Rome had to conquer the geographical obstacles, papal Rome had to conquer what? Geographical obstacles. Therefore, modern Rome has to conquer what? Geographical obstacles, right? Based on triple application. Now, there's something that I want us to notice. In each of the second obstacles that Rome always conquers, it's always in connection with the civil war, right? When Pompey goes into the glorious land in 63 BC, there was a civil war taking place, right? This is when Pompey goes into the glorious land. We're going to look at it in verse 41. When the Vandals were conquered by Justinian, there was a civil war between 2 brothers, right? There was a civil war between 2 brothers here in time when the pleasant land is conquered by Pompey. Their names Heraclius and Hyrcanus and Aristobulus, right? There was a civil war. One was a Pharisee, one was a Sadducee, right? There's a civil war going on there. And then when you go to the Vandals, there was a civil war between 2 brothers, 2 factions, right? One brother is what you call an Arian. The other brother is a Catholic. So when Justinian comes, he makes sure that he puts the Catholic brother on the throne, right? Therefore, when the papacy is going to conquer its second obstacle, in Daniel 11:40 to 45, what will be taking place in that nation? Civil war, right? Those brothers represent factions, right? I'm not saying there's going to be, primarily you can identify 2 factions that are definitely in contention with each other. But there's going to be a civil war, right? That's what's identified by this passage. Now, so when you go to verse, let's walk through Daniel 11. I just need to make sure that that's what I want us to do now. Yes, okay, before we really look into Daniel 11:45, but you can turn there. I have here in my notes, Daniel, I'm not using the notes today for a particular reason, so I'm just going to be giving you references because of time. The notes are quite lengthy, so I'll end up spending time trying to skip this and that. So verse 40 to 45 are events connected with the close of probation, which is the close of the judgment. Now there's a quotation from GC 594, paragraph 1. GC 1888, 594, paragraph 1. I'm just going to paraphrase that quotation. In that quotation, Sister White talks about the events connected with the close of probation and the work of preparation for the time of trouble being plainly revealed, right? So the close of probation takes you to the time of what? Time of trouble, right? And where do you see the time of trouble illustrated in the book of Daniel? Daniel 12:1. Therefore, Daniel 12:1 is the close of what? Probation. So this is the close of probation based on that quotation, right? And then for personal reading, take down 5T 212 pages 212 to 213. Here she's going to nail down that Daniel 12:1 marks the close of probation. She will specifically point that out, right? So once we put that in place, let's go to Daniel chapter 12, Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 to 45. I'm most of the people, 100% of the people here have studied Daniel 11, 40 to 45. So I will just do like a sketchy revision, and it's, so that we get to our main point. If you go to Daniel 11:41, we're picking from 41 because we left at 41 yesterday. We identified when it says, "He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, and these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon." There's the phrase "also." What did we identify about the phrase "also"? In a similar way, in a way similar to how we entered in verse 40, right? Through revolution and stuff, right? Amongst other things. So in a similar way, showing you the type of environment that's going to be ripening in the Sunday law crisis in the United States, right? And then it says many countries shall be overthrown, but we know that that word countries is supplied, it doesn't belong there, right? And we know that that many represents Adventists, right? For me, one simple argument is Daniel 9. Christ was to confirm the covenant with our many for a week. And who are those many? They were Jews, right? Just in the book of Daniel, representing Adventists. Close to many that are overthrown, they are the Adventists. Shall be overthrown, and these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. We know that these are the 11th hour workers, right? Just a sketchy revision. Then when we go to verse 42, I'll put some proof text of verse 42 because I think it's a bit something I need to. "He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape." Sorry, before we go to verse 41. Verse 41 identifies the glorious land, right? But Daniel 11:16 talks about a glorious land, doesn't it? But what makes that word glorious, what does it mean? In the Strongs. It means pleasant, right? Or goodly, right? Or in a sense of prominence, right? So this is identifying a nation that's prominent, a goodly nation. And so I want us to turn to Exodus chapter 20, verse 6 and 15. Let's go there. Exodus 20, verses 6 and 15. Ezekiel 20. Ezekiel 20, sorry. Verses 6 and 15. Okay. And it reads, "In the day that I lifted up my hand unto them, to bring them forth of the land of Egypt unto a land that I had espied for them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands." Right? So the land that the Lord is bringing these people to, when they are being brought out of Egyptian captivity, is called the glory of all lands. So it's a glorious land, isn't it? And you have a second witness in the same chapter in verse 15. It says, "Yet also I lifted up mine hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands." So the land flowing with milk and honey is the glory of all lands. Now there's another passage that talks about this. Let me just get my text. Deuteronomy 3:25. Let's turn to Deuteronomy 3:25. Deuteronomy 3:25. It reads. Okay, people are still turning. It says, "I pray thee, let me go over and see the good land that is beyond the Jordan, the goodly mountain and Lebanon." So here we're being told of a goodly land, which the Lord is giving unto his people, right? And this land is the glory of all lands, which is the land that he gave the Jews, like Israel, right? It's the glorious land. Let's go to Psalm. We want to identify the reason why God gave these people that land. Psalm 105, verses 42 to 45. Psalm 105, verses 42 to 45. Psalm 105, verses 42 to 45. These people have been in bondage, they've been in captivity. And the Lord is now bringing them from captivity and giving them a glorious land, right? A goodly land. And the word glorious in Daniel 11:41 means goodly, right? So Psalm reads, "For he remembered his holy promise and Abraham his servant, and he brought forth his people with joy and his chosen with gladness, and gave them the lands of the heathen, and they inherited the labor of the people, that they might observe his statutes and keep his laws. Praise ye the Lord." So why is the Lord raising up this land? Liberty of conscience, isn't it? So that you may be able to keep the law, right? Keep the Lord's statutes. Now, when you're looking at the context of Daniel chapter 11, which nation is the most prominent nation which the Lord raised up to preserve religious liberty, so that God's church can be built up, so that his people can worship him according to the dictates of their conscience after a period of bondage, which has been typified by the captivity in Egypt?
Yes.
It's the United States, right? That's what Great Controversy tells us. So the United States is the glorious land, right? When you're looking at it at a spiritual level, because it's been typified by Israel. And if you read GC 252, you can take down the reference. GC 252, in GC 252, Sister White identifies the two principles in the United States that make it glorious, right? She says that, I'm paraphrasing, but she's talking about how the United States preserves civil and religious liberty, which is the glory of that country. So what makes the United States the glorious land? Civil and religious liberty, right? You can keep the Lord's statutes in that nation. That's what makes it a glorious land. Civil and religious liberty. But one of the characteristics of the papacy that we know is that the papacy is an institution that's designed to restrict civil and religious liberty, right? You look at it in the Dark Ages, Rome never changes. So if the papacy is entering into the glorious land, what is he breaking in that nation? Civil and religious liberty, right? Because that's the glory of the United States. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of quotations. There's 4SP 277 that talks about the two horns. Should be 4SP 277. Paragraph 1, I think. It talks about the two horns of the United States. Yes, that should be the one. She's identifying in that passage that the two horns of the United States are republicanism and Protestantism, right? And she's identifying those as the strength and the power of the United States. So what makes the United States a powerful nation and its strength is these two horns, right? These two horns, civil and religious liberty, right? So when civil and religious liberty is gone, those two horns are broken, right? Brother Janai is going to cover Daniel, the four kings, right? You identify that Middle Persia typifies the United States. And there's a time when the ram gets the two horns broken, right? That's tonight's day. But I just want us to see those points. Now, Sister White identifies when this takes place. She says, the law of God is made void when our nation shall fill up the measure of their iniquity, right? And to get a more direct reference as to when the United States fills up the measure of its iniquity, when they make the law of the Lord void, you go to 5T 451. In 5 Testimonies 451, she's going to tell you something specific. That our nation shall make void and shall fill up the measure of its iniquity when it suppresses religious liberty by passing the Sunday law. Right? So when the nation passes the Sunday law, civil and religious liberty are the foundation of the United States. Therefore, when you get to the Sunday law, the glory departs, right? The United States falls. Because what makes the United States a kingdom in the first place? Civil and religious liberty, right? Because John sees a beast coming out of the earth with two horns, right? So when you get to when those two principles are destroyed, the United States is gone as a kingdom. The sixth kingdom of Bible prophecy falls right there at the Sunday law. Those quotes nail it down. One of the things that I want us to identify in that quotation in 5T, she's likening it with the abomination of desolation in AD 66 under Sesches. She says that that sign that was given for the Jews typifies the sign that's given to us at the Sunday law, that the nation, our measure of iniquity is full. But Daniel 11:16 also uses a similar phrase about a power entering into the glorious land. And in Daniel 11:16, who entered into the glorious land? Pompey. That's when he conquered the second obstacle in 63 BC. And you're seeing in Daniel 11, 40 to 45, that first the king of the north conquers the south, then the glorious land. So how the glorious land is conquered is been typified by how the pleasant, glorious land anciently was conquered. Pompey goes into, that's another line, but Pompey goes into Jerusalem, and he enters into the most holy, into the temple, into the most holy place, right? When he enters into the most holy place, he basically defiles or desecrates the temple. And what does Jesus call that? Abomination of desolation, right? And when Sister White is talking about the abomination of desolation, she places it at the Sunday law. That's the abomination of desolation. So you can bring various abominations of desolation line upon line to teach you that's truth. Another example is, do you see anywhere else where a king enters into the temple? Where? Nebuchadnezzar, that's another one. Who else? The one that Tendai was talking about yesterday. Uzziah.
Does he enter?
I think he goes into the temple. I don't know if he enters the most holy place, but he goes into the temple. Uzziah.
Because I thought you wanted to get in.
Oh,
And then it's
okay, let's look at it. I think it's key to look at it. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 26.